She caught her CEO husband in bed with his mistress. What she did next left him speechless. Hey, my beautiful family. Welcome back to the channel, where stories go deeper than drama. They touch the soul. I'm so glad you're here today, because this one, it will shake you. Before we begin, let me speak a blessing over your life. May peace find you today. May every disappointment turn into purpose. May love meet you in unexpected ways. And may your heart find healing where it's been broken. You're not alone. You're not forgotten. You're stronger than you think. If stories like this move you, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Because trust me, we're just getting started. Now, let's begin. She came home early. No noise, no warning, just silence, until she opened the bedroom door and found the unthinkable. Her husband, the father of her unborn child, with another woman in their bed. But she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just left something on the nightstand. And what followed, nobody saw coming. Vanessa Morgan wasn't supposed to be home that early. Her prenatal checkup had ended ahead of schedule, and a quiet drive through Lake Haven's upscale neighborhood calmed her nerves. Her baby girl had kicked all morning, strong and steady, as she stepped into the marble foyer of their estate. Silence greeted her instead of music or staff chatter. The house felt still, like it was holding its breath. She wasn't prepared for what she would find upstairs. But life rarely asks for permission before breaking your heart. And heartbreak? Hers was waiting behind the bedroom door, wrapped in betrayal. The door was ajar. It creaked slightly as she pushed it open with her left hand, the other cradling her 6-month belly. What she saw hit like a truck. Cole, her husband, her protector, the billionaire face of Harrington Enterprises, was in bed, tangled in sheets with Haley, his 25-year-old assistant. For a full second, no one moved. Vanessa didn't scream. Haley gasped and grabbed the sheet. Cole just stared. No shame, no fear, just annoyance, like she had interrupted something casual. The trust she built brick by brick collapsed in silence. And then her voice came, quiet but final. I didn't realize I needed an appointment to come home, Vanessa said, her voice low and steady. Cole finally sat up, running a hand through his hair, as if irritated. Your doctor's visit didn't take long, huh? He muttered. That was all. No apology, no panic, just cold. Vanessa stood there, frozen. Her mind wanted to break down, but her pride kept her standing. Haley scrambled out of the bed and fled the room with her heels in hand. Cole made no move to stop her. The moment felt surreal, like she was watching her life implode from the outside. She didn't argue, didn't ask why. Vanessa reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope, the one she had quietly prepared 2 weeks ago when she noticed Cole growing distant. Inside were signed divorce papers. She placed it on his nightstand, right next to the framed photo from their wedding in Santorini. He stared at it, eyebrows raised. So that's it, he asked. No dramatic meltdown, no begging for the baby's future. She looked him in the eye and said, I won't let our daughter grow up watching a man dishonor her mother. Then she walked away. As she passed the nursery, half painted in soft lavender, Vanessa felt her throat tighten. They had picked a color together. She remembered how Cole had lifted her up and kissed her after choosing the perfect shade. Now the room felt haunted. Her footsteps echoed down the staircase like drum beats at a funeral. Behind her, Cole didn't follow. He didn't even speak. Vanessa didn't know where she was going yet, just that she could never call this place home again. Her unborn daughter deserved better. And even if it crushed her, Vanessa would rise for both of them. Cole remained in bed for several minutes after she left. Not with regret, not with confusion, but with a twisted sense of relief. He had been suffocating in love, in expectations, in fatherhood. This affair was supposed to be a secret, but a part of him wanted her to find out. His father had cheated, his grandfather too. Harrington men don't stay tied down. He once heard growing up. Now it was his turn. Yet even as he justified it to himself, something uneasy twisted in his gut. Not guilt exactly, but something deeper, something darker. He threw on a shirt and headed downstairs, expecting to find Vanessa in the kitchen crying or yelling. Instead, the house was empty. No packed bags, no final goodbye, just silence and that manila envelope. Cole opened it, flipping through page after page of clean, calculated separation. She hadn't just caught him. She had planned for this moment. It hit him harder than her presence ever could have. She didn't fight. She didn't beg. She left him with his choices and walked out like she rehearsed it. That terrified him more than any angry confrontation ever could. Vanessa moved in with her older brother Julian that evening. He didn't ask questions, just cleared the guest room, made her tea, and held her while she cried. She hadn't cried in front of Cole, not one tear. But here, safe with Julian, she let it all out. Her dreams, her shame, her shattered hope. "I loved him," she whispered. "Even when I felt him pulling away, I still loved him." Julian kissed her forehead and said, "Then love yourself more. For that little girl in your belly, he doesn't get to define your worth." She nodded through tears. Back at the mansion, Cole poured himself a drink and sat alone in the dimly lit living room. He scrolled through old photos, the wedding, the honeymoon, the baby announcement. Vanessa's laugh echoed in his memory like a ghost. He could still hear her singing in the kitchen, her voice soft and full of warmth. But now, the silence swallowed him. He looked around the grand house, the marble, the chandeliers, the paintings, and realized none of it mattered. He had everything, except the one thing that made it feel like home. And now she was gone. The next morning, Cole woke up in the guest room. He couldn't bear to sleep in the master suite. The scent of her still lingered there. He stared at the untouched breakfast tray brought in by his staff. Everything was routine, perfect, polished, and completely empty. His assistant called twice. He ignored her. For the first time, Cole Harrington didn't want to be seen. Not as a CEO, not as a billionaire, just not at all. He picked up his phone to text Vanessa, but froze. What could he even say? "I'm sorry?" He wasn't even sure he meant it. 6 months passed. The courtroom was ice cold, not because of the air conditioning, but because of the silence between them. Vanessa sat on one side, calm and composed, her belly now full with the child Cole once said he never wanted. Her lawyer spoke with authority, reading clauses and rights, but all Vanessa heard was the closing of a chapter that had taken years to build and seconds to destroy. Cole didn't argue, didn't plead, didn't even look at her. When the judge finally signed off the divorce decree, Vanessa exhaled slowly. She wasn't free. She was simply done. Cole sat there like a statue, lips tight, fists clenched under the table. His lawyer had advised him to fight. For property, for custody, even for company shares Vanessa still legally had access to. But Cole had fired him, hired someone else. A man who was told to give Vanessa everything she asked for, no questions. Because Cole knew deep down, he'd already taken something priceless from her. Her peace, her joy, her trust. Money couldn't repair that. The diamond ring once on her finger, a family heirloom, was nowhere in sight. Just empty fingers and cold formality. Outside the courthouse, Vanessa's brother Julian appeared like a bodyguard, walking her slowly to the car. She moved carefully, protectively, not for herself, but for the baby. Cole watched them from a distance. Vanessa didn't glance back, not even once. It was over, not just the marriage, but the fantasy. Cole Harrington, the man who had always been the center of every room, was now just a silent onlooker to the life he destroyed. He lit a cigarette, even though he hadn't smoked in years, and stared at the sky. The price of pride? Loneliness. And he had paid in full. Back at the mansion, everything felt wrong. Too wide, too clean, too empty. Cole wandered through rooms that once carried laughter and soft jazz, now filled only with echoes. In the nursery, untouched since Vanessa left, he sat in a rocking chair and stared at the tiny crib they built together. The yellow walls mocked him. He had picked the color. She called it sunrise gold. He now called it grief. On the shelf sat a small stuffed elephant with a tag that read Daddy's Girl. It was supposed to be her first toy. Now, it was just a relic of regret. Vanessa went into labor on a rainy Tuesday. She didn't call Cole. He found out through the private investigator he had quietly hired, not to spy, but to protect. He paid for the best suite, the best OBGYN, the best care money could offer, anonymously. Vanessa never knew. He sat in his car across the street from the hospital for 10 hours, watching lights flicker on and off on the maternity floor, imagining her in pain, alone, delivering a child that was half him. He hated himself for not being beside her. But worse, he knew he didn't deserve to be. At exactly 4:16 a.m., he received a text. It's a girl. Both are healthy. No name. No photo. Just that. He cried. Real tears, the kind that burned. He hadn't cried since he was 14 and watched his mother walk out on his cheating father. But this was different. This wasn't his mother leaving his dad. This was his wife leaving him. For the same reasons. The sins of the father had become the legacy of the son. And now he had a daughter, who might never know his name. Vanessa named her Sienna Rose Morgan. No trace of the Harrington name. She brought her home to Julian's apartment, where a small room had already been decorated with lavender wallpaper and hand-stitched curtains made by her mother. Vanessa didn't cry in the hospital. She didn't cry at home either. But when she rocked Sienna to sleep that first night, and the baby wrapped her tiny fingers around hers, she whispered, "I'll protect you from everything, even from your father." Her voice cracked on the word father, but she stayed strong. Because Sienna didn't need broken promises. She needed truth. Cole went silent for weeks. He didn't go to work, didn't return calls. His assistant Haley had resigned after the scandal, and his new team avoided the topic like plague. The media buzzed with rumors. Some said Vanessa left because of family pressure. Others blamed stress. No one knew the truth. Cole didn't correct him. He stayed in the mansion and stared at the crib. The emptiness inside him grew like a tumor, pressing on every thought, every memory. He stopped drinking, stopped sleeping. All he could think about was that tiny hand, wrapped around someone else's. One night, drunk on grief but stone cold sober, Cole picked up a paintbrush. He hadn't touched a canvas since college. He painted Sienna's name, then her eyes, though he had never seen them. Then a woman standing tall in the rain, walking away. The brush moved like it had a memory of its own. With every stroke, he poured out what he couldn't say. "I'm sorry. I miss you. I'm nothing without you." When he finished, he stood back and wept, not for the marriage, not even for the betrayal, but for the man he had become and the man he might still be. Vanessa, meanwhile, was thriving. Slowly, surely, she taught piano part-time at a local art school and watched Sienna grow with wonder. She never mentioned Cole. Not once. But at night, when the house was quiet, she sometimes played their wedding song on the piano, a small, quiet melody unfinished. One day, as she stood over Sienna's crib, her daughter giggled in her sleep. Vanessa smiled, for real, because in that moment, she realized something important. She had lost a husband, yes, but she had found her strength. And no man, billionaire or not, would ever take that from her again. A full year passed. Cole Harrington was no longer the golden boy of tech headlines or gala fundraisers. He still wore expensive suits and signed billion-dollar deals, but behind every handshake was a hollow echo. To the world, he was thriving. In private, he was quietly falling apart. His mornings began on the terrace where Vanessa once sipped orange tea, her laugh dancing through the breeze. Now, the only thing dancing was regret. He had no photos of Sienna, no phone calls, just memories that weren't his, the kind you imagine when you've been locked out of your own story. Cole stopped trying to date. After 2 awkward attempts, one with a flight attendant and another with a pediatric surgeon, he realized he wasn't capable of faking normal. Both women were kind, beautiful, open, but they weren't her. They weren't Vanessa. Each time things got intimate, her face appeared in his mind, her voice, her last words in the bedroom doorway. "I won't let our daughter grow up watching a man dishonor her mother." That line stuck like glass in his throat. It wasn't just a memory, it was a mirror. And every time he saw himself, he looked away. He found himself driving past Julian's neighborhood once every few weeks, just to see the window lights, just to imagine her life. Once, He saw Vanessa walk in her car with Sienna, now a toddler with curly hair and bouncing energy. She wore lavender. He froze in his seat. His daughter had his eyes, wide, curious, focused. He couldn't breathe. He didn't take a photo. He didn't dare move. He just sat there, heart thudding, while the two people he missed most in the world walked out of view. That single sighting kept him awake for 3 nights straight. Eventually, Cole did something unexpected. He signed up for therapy. His therapist, a sharp but gentle woman named Dr. Reed, didn't let him hide behind business lingo or polished charm. She made him face his childhood, his father's affair, his resentment toward fatherhood, and most importantly, his cowardice. "You didn't just hurt her," she said one afternoon. "You erased yourself from your child's origin story. That kind of absence is louder than any apology." Cole left the session with his shirt drenched in sweat. But for the first time in years, he felt something honest in his chest. Movement. In the months that followed, Cole donated millions anonymously to single mothers' charities. He volunteered on weekends under a different name. He didn't need press. He didn't need praise. He needed penance. He started journaling letters to Sienna, not to send, but to prepare himself. Letters filled with guilt, hope, apologies, and promises. "I wasn't there for your first breath." One read, "But I'm trying to earn the right to be there for your future." Each page softened him, stripped away the pride, made space for someone new. Someone Vanessa might one day trust, not love, but trust. Sienna's 3rd birthday came quietly. Cole left a gift outside Vanessa's apartment. A child-sized piano with her name carved delicately across the front in cursive. It was returned to his doorstep the next day with a note that read, "Return to sender. We don't want anything from you." There was no anger in the handwriting, just finality. He didn't cry this time. He just placed the unopened box in the garage beside all the other gifts that had been left unread, untouched, unloved. A part of him still hoped, not for reconciliation, but for a moment, a chance to be more than a stranger. A week later, Cole received a legal envelope, a cease and desist from Vanessa's attorney. It requested he stop sending gifts, stop showing up unannounced, and respect the boundaries she had put in place for the safety of her child. The words weren't cruel. They were protective and justified. He had forfeited his rights long ago. He sat at his desk, rereading the letter until the words blurred. Then he folded it, placed it in a drawer labeled Truth, and promised himself he'd honor it. If he truly loved his daughter, he had to stop invading her world and start fixing his own. The weeks grew quieter. Cole poured himself into his company's mentorship program, hiring and training single mothers for flexible tech jobs. He stopped calling Vanessa, stopped sending gifts. But every now and then, he'd sit in his car near the community center where she taught music. He never got out, just listened through the window to the faint sound of piano keys and sometimes the soft, pure voice of a little girl singing along. Sienna, she had Vanessa's voice and his determination. It tore him up, but it also stitched something back together inside him, one thread at a time. Then one evening, out of nowhere, it happened. His phone lit up a message from an unknown number. "She asked about you today. I told her you were a father." That was it. No signature, no emoji, just a sentence. But to Cole, it felt like a door unlocking. Not wide open, but cracked. Just enough for air, just enough for hope. He read it again and again, hands shaking. Vanessa hadn't said you're her dad, and that's it. She said, "I told her you were her father." It meant she wasn't erasing him. Not entirely. Not yet. That night, Cole didn't drink, didn't paint, didn't scroll through photos. He simply sat on the nursery floor of the mansion, the room he had never changed, and whispered into the silence, "I'm still here, Sienna. I've never stopped being here. And if your mom ever lets me, I'll show you that myself." He looked around at the yellow walls. Not sunrise gold, not grief, just possibility. He grabbed a toolbox and began carefully taking it all down. Because if he was ever going to be in her life again, it wouldn't be as the man who broke it, but as the one who rebuilt it. 2 more years passed. Cole didn't chase. He respected the silence, the distance, the no-contact boundaries. But he never stopped hoping. He kept working, kept volunteering, kept growing, not for appearances but for peace. Then one Sunday afternoon, while reading through a stack of letters he'd written but never sent, his phone rang. It was a number he hadn't seen in years. Julian, Vanessa's brother. Cole stared at the screen like it might explode. He answered slowly, cautiously. "Julian, I wouldn't call unless I had to." Came the voice. "There's an emergency. Vanessa needs someone to watch Sienna tonight." Cole's chest tightened. "She asked for me?" "No. She didn't have time to ask anyone," Julian replied. "She had to be rushed to the ER. Food poisoning. I'm out of town. You're the only one who can get there in time." No hesitation. No time to prepare. Cole grabbed his coat and keys. 20 minutes later, he stood outside the door of the apartment he hadn't seen in 5 years. When the babysitter opened it, Sienna stared at him from the couch, now 5, with wide eyes and soft curls. She tilted her head and asked, "Are you my daddy?" He knelt slowly, choking back tears. "Yeah, I'm your daddy." She smiled, then reached for his hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Mommy said you used to paint," she said. "Can we draw?" They sat on the living room floor, coloring for hours. She asked questions. He answered carefully, gently, never once bad-mouthing Vanessa. They laughed. They built Lego castles. She fell asleep on his lap. He didn't move, not for snacks, not for calls. Just sat there with the weight of her breathing chest against his. For the first time, he didn't feel lost. When Vanessa returned early the next morning, pale and tired, she paused at the door. The scene before her was something she hadn't prepared her heart for. Sienna, curled up peacefully on the couch, and Cole asleep in the armchair beside her, one hand gently resting on their daughter's back. He didn't even stir when Vanessa stepped in. She stood there silently, watching a man she no longer recognized. He wasn't the cocky CEO. He wasn't the heartbreaker. He looked older, quieter. Still, she didn't wake him. She didn't speak. She just stood there, and for the first time, didn't feel anger. Cole stirred when the morning sun crept through the blinds. He opened his eyes and saw Vanessa across the room, watching. They locked eyes. 1,000 unsaid things swirled between them. He stood slowly, placing a blanket over Sienna. "She's incredible," he said softly. Vanessa nodded. "She is." There was no shouting, no tears, just silence, the kind that says something has changed. She didn't thank him. He didn't apologize. But as she walked him to the door, she said one thing. "Don't expect anything. But if she asks about you again, I won't lie." Then she closed the door. Weeks passed, and Cole didn't reach out. He didn't text, didn't show up uninvited. But something had shifted, not just in Vanessa, but in the air between them. One evening, Sienna asked, "Can Daddy come to my recital?" Vanessa paused. Her instinct was to protect, to shield. But her daughter deserved truth. "If he shows up," she said gently, "it's because he wants to see you happy." The night of the recital came. Sienna played the piano with trembling fingers, her lavender dress swaying. When she looked into the crowd, he was there, quiet, in the back, smiling. Vanessa saw him too. He didn't wave, didn't cause a scene, just clapped like any other parent. After the recital, Sienna ran to her mother. "Did he see me?" Vanessa smiled. "He never took his eyes off you." That night, after Sienna fell asleep, Vanessa opened her inbox. There was a message from Cole she had ignored for weeks. No demands, no begging, just, "I know I don't deserve a second chance with you, but I'd love to earn a place in our world, in whatever way you're willing to allow." Vanessa stared at it. Her fingers hovered over reply. She didn't write back. Not that night, not the next. But she started noticing things, small, invisible gestures. Sienna's school tuition was suddenly covered. Her broken violin string was replaced the next day. A raincoat appeared on the doorstep after storm. Not flashy gifts, thoughtful ones. Cole was doing what she begged for years ago, putting their daughter first. One Saturday morning, Sienna drew a picture. "It's you, me, and Daddy at the park," she said proudly. Vanessa studied the drawing. It was crooked and simple, but something about it made her heart ache. Not with pain, with possibility. Eventually, Vanessa texted, "She's asking for you more often. If you're serious, we can start with Saturday mornings. Just you and her. No expectations." His reply came instantly. "I'll be there. Every time." And he was, week after week. He brought books, snacks, chalk. He never overstayed. Never crossed boundaries. One morning, while Vanessa watched from a distance, Sienna whispered to her father, "Why don't you live with us?" Cole smiled softly. "Because some things take time, princess. But I'll always be close by." It was the first time Vanessa didn't feel fear in the idea of him staying. Still, she remained guarded. She didn't want apologies. She wanted consistency. And Cole gave her that. He kept showing up, on time, respectful, patient, not the man she married, but not the man who betrayed her either. Somewhere in between. A man who'd been cracked open, emptied, rebuilt. One afternoon, Vanessa brought Sienna to Cole's art gallery, a private exhibition he held for children's charities. On the far wall hung a canvas, a woman walking away in the rain and a child reaching toward her. Sienna pointed. "Is that us?" Vanessa didn't answer. Her silence said everything. That night, Vanessa and Cole sat on a bench outside the gallery. The air was quiet. The city around them buzzed, but they were still. "I never said sorry," Cole whispered. "I know," she replied. "I won't ask you to forgive me." "Good," she said, "because I'm not there." He nodded, accepting it. Then she added, "But I also don't hate you anymore." He looked at her, not with hope, but with humility. "You don't owe me anything," he said. She met his eyes. "But I owe her a father who's trying." And that, more than love, was a beginning. As the months passed, they built a rhythm. Not romance, rebuilding. They shared school runs, birthdays, medical appointments. Vanessa didn't lower her walls, but she let him stand beside them. Sienna noticed. "You and Mommy smile more now," she said once. Vanessa smiled. "Sometimes healing looks like that, baby." There were no declarations, no grand gestures, just small, consistent acts of love, the kind you show, not say. And every time Sienna fell asleep during movie night, curled between them, Vanessa would quietly whisper to herself, "I'm still not in love with him, but I'm not afraid of him anymore." On Sienna's 6th birthday, Vanessa invited Cole inside after the party, just for coffee. He accepted, gratefully, cautiously. They talked like old friends, laughed like distant memories were safe now. At the door, she said, "This doesn't change anything." He nodded. "I know." But before he left, she handed him something, a drawing Sienna had made. 3 stick figures holding hands under a sun. She said it's her favorite day. Vanessa added. Cole blinked back tears. "It's mine too." And for once, they didn't part like strangers. They parted like co-authors of a story neither thought they'd finish together. Weeks later, Vanessa sat at her piano and played a melody she hadn't touched in years. Their wedding song. It had once sounded like a goodbye. Now, it sounded unfinished. Sienna sat beside her, humming. Then, from a hallway, another note joined in. Cole, holding a violin. Tentative, soft. Vanessa didn't stop him. They played the rest together. Not in perfect harmony, but in something better, effort. When the final note faded, they sat in silence. Then Vanessa whispered, "I still don't know if I can ever love you again." Cole replied, "I'm not here for that. I'm here for us." Some stories don't end with fireworks. They end with peace. Vanessa never forgot what Cole did, but she also never forgot who he became. And Sienna? She got the best of both. Her mother's strength, her father's devotion. As Cole walked out that night, he didn't ask for more time. He simply said, "I'll see you next Saturday." Vanessa closed the door with a soft smile, because healing doesn't always mean getting back together. Sometimes it just means finally moving forward together And that is where their story ends, not with a grand romantic reunion, but with something even more powerful: growth, healing, and a second chance at peace. Vanessa didn't forget what he did. Cole didn't expect to be forgiven, but for the sake of their daughter, they both chose to rise above the pain. Family doesn't always look perfect. Love doesn't always end the way we dreamed. But sometimes it leads us back to ourselves. Stronger, wiser, softer. So if you've ever been broken, betrayed, or had to rebuild from scratch, this story is for you. Because healing doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It means learning to move forward, even when the wounds still ache. Drop a comment. Would you ever forgive someone like Cole? And if this touched your heart in any way, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs it. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay strong, and remember, your story isn't over yet.